Welcome to In Session. I'm Kelli Pierce. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and every week I get together with my co-host, Dr. Jerry Powell, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and we talk all about relationships. Come join us. Hey, Jerry, let's go ahead and roll right into affection on the Dyadic Adjustment Scale. The
Okay.
affection when it comes to partner satisfaction.
It's important because demonstrations of affection are important in a relationship. And it's often an indicator of how well the relationship is going. Although it's very difficult to bring it up in clinical settings for some, very difficult to talk about with others of, well, how is your sex life? Now that you're in here for counseling and you're fighting all the time, how's your sex life?
Sure.
Because it's difficult to be sexually intimate with somebody you're angry with. And so when one person is holding a grudge and the other one is going, I got over it. It's no big deal. I'm ready for sex. Well, I'm not. Then the affection or the demonstration of affection now becomes a point of contention.
Mm.
So understanding how we agree or disagree, how we decide what type of affection, how affectionate to be, how frequently to be affectionate, and realizing that affection is a long scale
Mm.
of everything from a nod across the room to hot sex.
Mhm.
And all of those seem to touch a different part of who we are.
Mm.
That it's not just having sex, sexual intercourse, although some go, well, how's your sex life? Might be better to phrase that as how is your affection being shown between the two of you?
Yes, that would present a different thought process, in our partners as we look and we think, how have I been doing in expressing my affection for my partner?
Yes, because we could just go with a scale. How many times a week do you have sex?
Hmm.
Well, not as often as I want. Well, more than I want.
Hmm.
Well, how many times? 1, 3, 5, 12, 27. That's a number. And they may not have much affection
Right.
between the two of them.
Yeah.
Having a lot of sex, but no affection.
Yeah. Yeah. If you
So,
ask them their contentment level, like how loved are you feeling? How content are you? We might get a different scale also.
because, uh, it, even the word intimacy, for some, that just means having sex.
Yeah.
For others, intimacy is, do you feel emotionally connected to your partner? Are you intimate with your partner? Intimate, we haven't had sex all week. Have you shared an intimate moment? So, intimacy has a very different meaning for people.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's helpful to explain intimacy is not just about having sex, although that's what our culture often says. Are you two being intimate? Means are you having sex? But you can be very intimate with people with not any sex involved,
Hmm.
meaning you're sharing close, emotionally sensitive issues, relational issues. You're talking or sharing events and activities that are very special to you.
Hmm.
And that can be a very intimate moment without even touching.
Yes. Yes, and I feel like if a couple will give some space for those things to grow, also the other areas of affection and intimacy and connection, maybe as the in the five love languages that Dr. Gary Chapman talks about, it gives us uh, a variety of different ways to love and connect with one another.
Right, right. His book on the five love languages, there are a number of different ways to access it and take the survey and do that. I found one called simplypsychology.org has a great breakdown on the five love languages. And when we look at those, one of them is tender touch. And tender touch or physical touch
Mhm.
really has very little to do with sex, having sex, but it can be involved. But those are such things as snuggling together, resting your hand on your partner's arm or leg, holding hands when you're walking, going places arm in arm,
Yeah.
putting your hands on your partner as you're moving around the kitchen. That not it's not an avoidance, it's a connection time. So having those tender touches can be a way of affirming the physical needs that we have that does not always lead to having sex.
Yeah, the physical touch, I think, is one of those that a couple we understand what it means, but I don't think we understand the value of what it can mean, especially if our partner, that's their love language. Not all of us are physical touch love languages, but if we know that that's something that really fills our partner's emotional cup, then
Well, and that's one of the things Gary Chapman talks about. He calls it your emotional love tank.
mm,
And it gets depleted if we are not spoken to in our appropriate love language. And if physical touch is your love language and no one is touching you,
yeah,
you're not having any physical, tactile connection with another person, it begins to get depleted. So it can be things such as, we always snuggle before we fall asleep. We always go to bed at the same time. Or we snuggle in the morning. It doesn't always mean sex in the morning or sex when we go to sleep, but we snuggle. When we watch TV, we always sit on the couch. I know you like your recliner, but let's sit on the couch together so I can snuggle up next to you. When
mm,
we go walking, I like to hold your hand. Well, I don't want to hold your hand. I don't like being touched. It's just not something we did growing up. It's not something I do.
right.
Well, learn to speak another language that we can all learn to accommodate our partner. If this is important to you, then it's important to me
Yeah.
because you're important to me.
Yes. Let's talk about words of affirmation. I think that's a really valuable language. I'm not sure that maybe we as adults, do we not give that back and forth to one another like we do with our children? We just,
I think you're exactly right, Kelly, that none of us give enough words of affirmation to anybody.
that's
Let's just
right.
put it that
That's
way.
right.
We're far more inclined with our children to tell them what they need to do, what they need to pick up, what they need to clean up, where they need to go, come here, stop that, do this, do that. We're giving directives all the time without words of affirmation. I really appreciate you helping with this. That I saw that you were helping your little brother. That was really sweet of you. I like that you picked your things up without me having to tell you.
Mhm.
Thank you for coming to dinner when I called you the first time. Thank you for putting down your iPad when I was talking to you. Words of affirmation are continual affirming comments that reinforce good behavior, but it's a recognition of past behavior or not only behavior, but character. You're really special because you're who you are.
Yeah,
When we can affirm people with it not being tied to behavior.
that's what I believe that most people are wanting the affirming because they are, just because you exist, just you're enough just the way you are, or at least, but they get affirmed in the category that they really want to feel special about, and they're looking for that partner to recognize that. And
Yes.
I think all I'm saying is just what you said. It's a language that we just don't speak as much as we could, and it's really valuable.
Yes. And particularly if that's someone's primary love language, they'll notice a deficit coming on, and they're much more likely to react negatively to criticism or complaints. Oh, you didn't
Yes.
do this right, or this isn't good. Well, that's far removed from what an affirmation is. A word of affirmation is, I really appreciate you doing this. Well, it didn't come out the way that I wanted. I know, but I appreciate you doing it. Is a word of affirmation, even though the meal or the event or the activity didn't fly the way we wanted.
Yeah.
Thank you for being you and being a part of it.
Yeah.
So when we give words of affirmation, it can be, I'm so glad you're my wife. I'm so glad you're my partner. I'm glad we're able to do this together. I would rather do this with you than anyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an act of intimacy. It can just be, I'm glad we got to go to this concert together.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time. Well, you asked me to go. Yes, I know. And you could have said no,
Right.
but I'm glad you went with me.
Yeah.
Okay. When they do it, give them a word of affirmation. I know you didn't really want to do this, but it meant a lot for me that you did this.
Yeah.
So, words of affirmation are not just on behaviors, but they're on character, they're on participation, they're on involvement, that you're a part of my life and my life is better because of it.
Hmm. I think the areas of gifts, that's pretty self-explanatory, unless,
We often think that they have to be expensive or special. They can be anything expected or unexpected, tangible, verbal or not, that can often tie closely into words of affirmation. A gift can be, I really appreciate what you did for me. Well, that was a gift. I just gave you a compliment.
yeah,
It can be a card, it can be flowers. The thing is, some people believe that everyone wants flowers. Every woman wants flowers. If receiving gifts is not in her love language, she may look at them and go, in 2 weeks, these are going to be nothing but dry stems to throw away. It can even be like, why did you spend money on that? That was a
yeah,
waste of money.
yeah,
Okay. Be sensitive to what your partner's love language is. If it's not gifts, don't waste your money. Now
right,
you can still buy, get her a card, get him a card, get a gift, do those things appropriately at the appropriate time or occasion,
right,
but they don't have to be a spontaneous, hey, I was thinking about you and picked up this for you because I know you like this scented candle,
yeah.
or, you want this. So gifts seem simple, but if not done well, can end up cobbling up the relationship.
Well, and what you said is exactly why we have tools like love languages and why we talk about them in sessions is we do want to make this easier, not harder. We want you to work smarter,
Yes.
not harder. That's why the love languages hit that sweet spot. Because if you feel like your partner loves gifts and you're spending money and it's frustrating and it's stressful, and then you come home and they're like, "What's this all about?" And you're like, again, if you're trying to love your partner in the way that they want to be loved, then understand what their language is and speak that.
Yes. That's very important. Acts of service, quality time, all five of them are important. And knowing that your partner may have a little bit of each of them.
That's right.
That quality time, who doesn't want quality time with their partner? That's why we're together, so
Yeah.
that we can be together.
Yeah.
Acts of service, I would really appreciate it if you would do the dishes once in a while. Well, sometimes we can regard that as, well, it's just a division of labor. I do it one night, you do it one night. But hey, I know this is your night, but you're tired. Let me do it for you, is an
Mhm.
act of service.
Yeah.
So recognizing that we can do things that may not necessarily be in their primary love language or even secondary love language, being considerate of our partner by providing those different avenues of expressing love really helps to bring more cohesion in the relationship. So our different behaviors should blossom into more opportunities to express our love through any of the love languages, but more predominantly to those that are primary and secondary to your partner.